All right, so last night the All Star starters were announced for both conferences, the five West All Stars and the five East All Stars. The way that they do it is they have two guards and they have three front court members, meaning a forward or a center. And I thought they did a pretty good job overall in the selections. Of course, the fans get 50% of the vote, the players get 25% of the vote, and the media gets 25% of the vote. And then you have some discrepancies between these different voter groups, of course. You're going to have the fans vote for guys who are a little bit more exciting. You're going to have the media vote for guys who are a little bit more statistical or whatever. And the players are going to vote for their teammates. They're going to vote for their guys who they get along with. We know that the players are a little sketchy when it comes to their voting. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good starting lineup for both conferences. In the West, I had, and I put this on Twitter a few days prior, in the West, I had Ja as my starting guard. I had SGA as the other guard. I had LeBron, Sabonis, and Jokic in the front court. And I know when people hear my all-star starters out West that they're going to have a problem with it. For me, with Ja and SGA, Ja is playing winning basketball. The Memphis Grizzlies are one of the top teams in the NBA. They're at the top of the Western Conference standings, right up there with Denver. So Memphis is playing winning basketball. To go into Memphis and try to win a game right now is it's very difficult. And Ja's putting up great numbers as he always does. So for me, it was hard to take Ja off of the starting lineup. And with SGA is just having a hell of a season. I mean, he's balling out over 30 points per game on over 50% from the field. He gives you 90% from the line. He's a mid 30% from 3-point range. And that was the thing about SGA. People wondered if his 3-point shot was going to come along, but it's here. I mean, he's a mid range guy. He's a guy who's going to take it to the basket. But if he needs to pull up three or a game winning three, we've seen it this season. He single handedly is the reason why OKC is competitive. I mean, no one expected OKC around the time of the All-Star break to be a 500 ball club. Nobody saw that coming. You know what I mean? Everybody thought this team was going to be in it for Wembanyama, but SGA is just balling out of control. And I love Steph Curry more than anybody, but Steph Curry just, he's missed some games. The Warriors aren't winning enough. They're not playing defense. When you talk Luka Doncic, the Mavericks aren't winning enough. And when you say, well, the Mavericks and the Warriors have like the same record as OKC, OKC is not supposed to have that record. The Mavericks and the Warriors are actually supposed to be better than where they are right now, especially the Warriors. So all things considered, I just thought SGA in his current situation is doing better than the two of those guys. But this is just my list. If you asked me what was actually going to happen, I would have told you that Steph and Luka were going to get the nods over Ja and SGA. But if I'm looking at it just objectively, I have to give the edge to Ja and SGA for what they've done this season so far. In the front court, LeBron and Jokic, that's spot on. Can't really argue those guys. With Sabonis, I had Sabonis. Of course, they ended up going with Zion Williamson. I knew they would go with Zion Williamson. I'm not that mad at it. I wanted to put Zion Williamson in, but he just missed so many games. But Zion's having a great season in the games that he did play in, and Sabonis is balling out. The reason I went with Sabonis, when you look at Sacramento on any given night, you catch Sacramento, especially when they're at home, and their offense just clicks on all cylinders, and a big part of that is Sabonis. He just, in the dribble handoffs, grabbing the rebound and pushing it in transition, face-up game, back to the basket game. He's such a great passer of the basketball. He just opens up so much for that team, and they really work off of him. I think if you don't watch Sacramento, you probably think maybe De'Aaron Fox is the best player on the team. But if you actually watch the games, you would know everything that they do. And one of the reason why they have one of the best offenses in the NBA is because of Sabonis. Everything works through Sabonis. He really is a mini Jokic in a lot of ways. So those are my only gripes with the West. If you wanted to make the argument that Lauri Markkanen could be in there for Zion and Sabonis as the starter, I've heard some people make that claim. But for me, Lauri is just a little bit behind those guys. He's a little bit behind Sabonis. But Lauri has had a very good season. My issue with Lauri Markkanen, and it's part of what makes him good, is that Lauri Markkanen can kind of just disappear throughout the course of the game. Like, he doesn't really need the ball to be effective. He kind of just gets in where he fits in. And, he can quietly get you 20 points, quietly get you around 10 rebounds. I mean, it's very efficient stuff. But sometimes he's just not really there when you need him to be. Sometimes it just feels like Utah is missing that guy to really go to. He's not necessarily that kind of guy. So for me, Markkinen, yeah, I would have to put him like a little notch, like a hair below Sabonis for me. Now, with the Eastern Conference All Stars, I thought they did a really good job with this list. At guard, I had Mitchell and I had Jaylen Brown. They ended up going with Mitchell and Kyrie Irving. I got no problem with putting Kyrie Irving over Jaylen Brown. Right now, Jaylen Brown is playing for the better basketball team. They're winning more games. Jaylen Brown is probably bringing you more on the defensive end than Kyrie Irving is on a night-to-night basis. Jaylen Brown does bail out Jason Tatum a lot of nights, so I just thought if you're going to give Jason Tatum that nod and you're going to show so much respect to Jason Tatum, I mean, the media voted Jason Tatum #1 in the East. If you're going to give that much respect to Tatum for like leading the Boston Celtics, I think you got to give a good amount of respect to Jaylen Brown because Jaylen Brown does help out Jason Tatum in a lot of ways. He bails him out. He comes through when Jason Tatum necessarily isn't. And I was leaning that way. I was thinking best team in the NBA, maybe give them two guys. But Kyrie Irving, you guys know how I feel about Kyrie Irving. I'm never going to talk anybody off putting Kyrie Irving. It's an all-star game. The fans want to see it. And ever since the little thing in the beginning of the year with Nash and the whole Black Israelites thing, I mean, ever since then, which I don't have a problem with, by the way, but ever since then, Kyrie, it was a shaky start, but since then he's been balling out. I didn't really know how this was going to play out. I thought maybe they might hold that against him. The Nets didn't start the season off too well, but they gave him the nod, and I have no issues with it. In the front court at forward center, they have Tatum, KD, and Giannis. I actually tweeted this out. I agree with it. Joel Embiid's having an amazing season. You know, apologies to him. It sucks that it works out this way, but someone has to sit. And Jason Tatum, like I said, he has the best record in the NBA. He's the best player on the best team. Kevin Durant, I know he missed some games, but Durant has actually played more games than Embiid up until this point. I think Durant has played more games than Giannis still up until this point. But Durant, 30 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.5 blocks per game, 56% from the field. That has to be the highest shooting percentage for a perimeter player. I mean, we know centers and guys around the rim who get layups and only take a few per game might have a higher field goal percentage than that. But as far as guys who actually create their own offense, that's about as good as it's going to get. He's giving you 93% from the free throw line, 38% from three. I mean, he's just having the perfect season. He's scoring very efficiently. He's rebounding, he's passing the basketball, he's defending, he's protecting the rim. Like he's having the perfect season. And for Durant to bounce back from the injury the way that he has and have us questioning, is he better than he's ever been before? It's really remarkable. I lean towards saying no. I lean towards saying his best basketball was maybe his last season with Golden State when he got injured in that Rockets series and wasn't really able to play against Toronto besides Game 5. I think that was the best Kevin Durant just because he had a little bit more pop and a little bit more explosiveness than he has now. Now he picks his spots a little bit more. He's a little bit more decisive with his moves, has to be a little bit more calculated. Just doesn't have that same movement. We saw the Boston Celtics get really physical with him and be able to take a lot away from him in the playoffs last year. But when you talk about this season, I mean, what he's doing, it's just incredible. He has to be in the starting lineup. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, you know what you're getting with Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's like the younger generation face of the league. I don't want to say he's the face of the league because you have guys like LeBron James, who a lot of people still think when they think NBA, they're thinking LeBron. And you have a lot of people, especially in my generation, who would tell you Steph Curry. A lot of people are big on Steph Curry. So it's hard to say that Giannis is the face of the league, but he's the young guy who, you know, from an international level and just the young guy who has a ring and who's just super dynamic. He's kind of that next guy, the guy who's kind of being put up as the next face. Maybe Luka steals it from him because Luka's just so fun to watch. But Giannis is the guy. Giannis was the captain for the Eastern Conference. And nobody's surprised about that. When you talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're going to get a very efficient 35 and 12, just attacking the basket at all points in time. And I know he doesn't average 35 points a game, but I'm saying he can give you that at any point. Just, you know, monster performances. Like if you check the box score after a game and you see Giannis has 38, 16, and 7 assists, and he blocked 3 shots, you wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he's like this generation's Wilt Chamberlain, the way that he just fills up the box sheet. And he's just incredible. You knew Giannis was going to get the nod. Joel Embiid, I think there is a little bit of hate on Joel Embiid for previous seasons and things that he hasn't done, lack of playoff success. But he's had a hell of a year. I mean, Joel Embiid is literally unguardable in that mid post. He's a franchise altering player. He's a guy who you can build your team around, which Philadelphia has done, and they've been a really good team this year. They're a team to watch out for in the playoffs because I don't really think people are talking about them enough, and they are very good this year. Of course, a lot of that just bodes down to how much can they overcome James Harden's choke job, and how much of a choke job is James Harden going to have? And of course, the biggest concern with them is Joel Embiid's health. If Joel Embiid can remain healthy, the sky is the limit for the Sixers team because from possession to possession, he just is a matchup nightmare for the opposition all night long. But anyway, I'm gonna play this video that Skip and Shannon have of the All-Star starters. Let's see what they have to say.
Shannon, lots of controversy over this. What's your biggest problem with the list?
Zion making it after just playing 29 games. I would have taken Sabonis, Skip. He's averaging 18 points. He leads the league in rebounding at 12.4, and he's 7 assists a game, Skip. And he's shooting 60% from the field.
Yep.
And his team was third in the West, if I'm not mistaken. Or Laurie Markkinen.
Yeah, Sabonis' stats are just ridiculous. If you haven't watched the Sacramento Kings play this season, then you really just wouldn't get it. Like, what he's doing for them, it's just incredible. They are such a fun team to watch. They like to beam after every W. What they have going on in Sacramento is really crazy. I think maybe they stand put with this team, and maybe next year they use some assets to trade for a guy, because you're probably not going to get a guy to come sign to Sacramento. But you can make a trade with the assets that they have, and you can acquire somebody really good. And when you pair that guy, like a potential bubbling star at the wing position next to Sabonis, Keegan Murray, De'Aaron Fox, now you're really cooking. Right now they have Harrison Barnes, and they have Kevin Huerter, and they have guys who are good players, but don't quite take you over the hump. If they're able to move a couple pieces and get one more guy who really moves the needle, that team is going to be crazy out west. Sacramento Kings they're probably the funnest team to watch in basketball right now. And I agree with Shannon. I think with Zion Williamson, he just hasn't played enough games. But I'm not. That's my biggest issue with the list. That's my biggest problem. But I'm not that mad at it. It's Zion Williamson. He's had a hell of a year too. The Pelicans have officially entered the chat. They are a great team. When healthy, they are a force to be reckoned with. So I'm not mad at that.
24.5, 8.7 on 52% shooting, 43% from three-point line. Skip, I can't take a guy that's played 29 or 49 games. I'm not saying, and the stat, Zion has put up 26.7 rebounds, 4.5 assists a game, they're fourth in the West. But Sabonis averaging 18.4, 12.4, 7.3, and he's played 45 games, and he's played through a fractured thumb. Look, I think I would have put AD, but AD has missed as many games as Zion. So I can't put him in there. But Sabonis.
Yeah, for me, AD makes the reserves. For me, he's probably the last guy to make the All-Star team for me as a reserve. He was balling out when he was in, but of course he's just been banged up too much. And there's a lot of guys like that. Like, I have Booker as a reserve for me, but Booker's just been banged up too much. And that's kind of the season it's been in the NBA this year.
Bonus would have been my first choice, Laurie Markkinen, as a starter. But I think both of these guys should make, along with AD, I think AD is going to make it. One of these guys is going to probably get snubbed. But yes, Skip, Sabonis or Markkinen, definitely.
No, Markkinen and AD should both make the All-Star reserves list. I don't see a way that both of them don't make that team.
Should have started over Zion.
Okay, I agree with your premise, but not the result, because the game does belong allegedly to the fans, right?
Yeah, they count for 50%.
That's what I'm saying.
And then the players and the media
right.
count.
And the game is the ultimate sort of goal of the game is to give back to the fans,
right,
and have a weekend
right,
of celebration of the sport of basketball. Yes. Okay. So I look at the fan rank, the way the fans voted, and Sabonis, as much as I like his game, he's not a big fan favorite around the country because he's playing in Sacramento and he played in Indiana, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he got voted by the fans the 9th on this.
Yeah.
Just goes to show that people don't really know what they're watching, or they're just a little too biased. I mean, Sabonis is having a hell of a year. I don't know how many more times I need to say that. It's really just fandom, people being biased.
You know what happened? Because Zion was 4th on this list, so he beat him by 5 spots. So
Right.
that helped a lot. The players still have high regard for Zion because the players ranked him 3rd. So that would qualify him as a starter. So that contributed to him. So he gets 3rd from them, 4th from the fans.
Well, Zion is a very likable guy, it seems. It seems like everybody gets along with him well. He's always smiling. He doesn't talk a lot of trash. Unless it's the Phoenix Suns, he doesn't talk a lot of trash. And Zion, young guy, very respectful. And he's balling out. And when they go up against him, they're probably just amazed by how fast and how strong he is, how powerful he is. And they have a lot of respect for that because they know that they have a hard time getting in front of that. So I think the players just, from a matchup perspective and also just from a personality perspective, they're going to lean into Zion.
The media ranked him 4th, and it was just enough just by the cross with the 50% impact of the fan vote. It got him barely into the 3rd starter spot.
Yes.
And across the board, Sabonis was 5th with the players and actually 3rd with the media. So the media is looking at it like you're looking at it, okay? Because, hey, he deserves,
Yeah, after Jokic and LeBron, you got to give the 3rd spot to Sabonis.
just on stats
What did the
alone.
fans? What did the players
For which one?
for Sabonis?
5th.
Okay.
And AD was low by players ranked. He was 7th.
Right.
And it may be because he just doesn't play enough.
Well, it was Skip. He played more than Zion.
Okay, I got it. But I'm shocked by that because so the players ranked Zion 3rd and AD 7th. So
Yeah.
they're just saying, when we play against Zion, we got our hands fuller than we have with AD. Two guys who were obviously Pelicans.
Right.
So again, in the end, just.
And the league really be finessing the draft. Like for the Cleveland Cavaliers to get LeBron James, for the Pelicans to get Zion Williamson and like basically be forced to trade Anthony Davis, but then they get Zion Williamson the following draft. Like the draft be so rigged, bro.
Me, as a fan, do I want to see Zion in the game more than Sabonis? Well, sure I do.
But he probably ain't gonna. You think Zion's gonna play?
I don't know. I never know.
I mean, that's the
I
thing.
don't know.
Yeah, you like to see him, but hell, he probably gonna be hurt.
He's got a hamstring issue.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
he's out at least 2 more weeks.
Okay.
And do you bring him back? Skip like, hey,
I don't know.
you gonna play the All-Star game?
Would you just get like 1 minute or something? Just
Yeah.
to show? I don't know. Okay, I got all that. Now let me flip it around to the other side. In the East, to me, I've got Joel Embiid as the MVP, and I keep telling you that because that team is emerging as the best team in the East. And so I don't know how you can keep Joel out of the top 3. But then I look at the way the players voted. That they voted him, Embiid, as the 3rd starter.
Right.
Okay. Then
Well, yeah, the players are going to vote Embiid over Tatum as a 3rd starter because Embiid is the better player. And it's understandable. If you were going to knock a guy off to fit Embiid in there, I understand it being Tatum because Embiid is a better basketball player than Jason Tatum. But Jason Tatum is the best player on the best team in the NBA. So I'm going to have to give Tatum the nod. Tatum has to be in the starting lineup. Kevin Durant has to be in the starting lineup because of the numbers he's putting up and because of how much he means to his team. Giannis Antetokounmpo has to be in the starting lineup because he's the best player in the NBA. So Joel Embiid just was put in a rough spot.
the fans don't like Joel Embiid. And I don't know if it's just because of his reputation or because he's always kind of a sourpuss about things. Or
He be trolling.
Yeah, he trolls. He trolls a lot, and he does.
He
And
does.
I think it might.
Brooklyn having two guys like that's why I said give Jaylen Brown the nod over Kyrie Irving, because Boston, the season that they're having, they can have two guys in the starting lineup. The Nets right now, where do they rank in the East? The Brooklyn Nets are like 4th, 5th in the East. Like they're right there with the Cavs for like that 4th and 5th spot in the East. To have two guys in the starting lineup when you're not really like a top 2, top 3 team in your conference, it's kind of pushing it a little bit. I would have went with Jaylen Brown just out of respect to winning.
Hurt him with the fan vote because I don't think they trust him. He's been hurt too much over the length of his career. He's been sick and hurt and sick and hurt. Always something wrong with him. And then, the media did put him in. So he's third with the media and third with the players, but the fans don't have any regard for him. And then the 50% of the fan vote, it falls Giannis, KD, and Jason Tatum into the top three.
But Skip, I mean Tatum has played very well this year. His team is number one. Boston is a cornerstone franchise, a large market. So Skip, it's not like he's Sabonis played in Sacramento and played in Indy. You got Giannis, you got KD, and you got JT.
Okay, I got it. And the media put Jason Tatum 1.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. Like, oh man, I respect winning too. He's the best player on the best team, but Jason Tatum cannot be the number one pick by the media, the people who are supposed to know basketball. He cannot be the number one pick.
Man, I've been watching Boston a lot, and I don't know if you watched them against the Knicks last night, but the whole team came up small.
Yeah.
But
hey, and we cashed with the Knicks last night. We had the Knicks plus 8.5. I post all my plays on Twitter. You guys know that already. But yeah, Jason Tatum, I don't think people really realize what they're watching. You hear a lot of people say Tatum is better than Kevin Durant now. That's kind of like a thing people say, especially because he swept him last year. You don't know basketball if you think Jason Tatum's better than Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is such a better offensive player and so much more efficient than Jason Tatum. Kevin Durant is also a smarter player and will have less turnovers than Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's thing right now is he probably plays better defense on a play-to-play basis than Durant, even though Durant protects the rim better than Tatum. And Tatum probably has a higher motor. They lean on Tatum a lot to play heavy minutes at times and guard the other team's best player as well as be the main option on offense. They'll ask him to do that for an entire game. Tatum does have some edges, and because Tatum's stronger than him, he was able to bully him a little bit with some physicality in that first round matchup. But overall, I mean, they're just on different levels offensively. Like, Kevin Durant is a much better offensive player than Jason Tatum. I don't know how else to say it.
Jalen Brown got another free throw.
Got to make one of them. Okay, and he gagged, man. He short-armed the first one.
Yeah, and I'm glad Jaylen Brown was missing those free throws because that game was starting to piss me off. When you have the underdog and the game goes into overtime, the favorite usually covers that game, and it just gets super annoying because it's like when you make a bet, you're thinking about the 4 quarters of the game. And in the 4 quarters of the game, if you had the underdog and it goes to OT, that means you covered. At the end of 4 quarters, the teams were tied, and your plus whatever should hit. But now you're going into overtime, and there's more time for the other team to like sneak one from you. But the way that I look at it is it will always balance out. Like, sometimes you'll have some bad beats where your underdog loses in overtime, and sometimes you'll get some wins you weren't supposed to get because your favorite goes to overtime and then just takes over in the overtime. Because usually the favorite, the better team, is going to win if you give them more time to play, if you give them that extra overtime. Because more times than not, the underdog will have the lead, and then the favorite will be coming back, and the favorite will force overtime. And then overtime starts, and the favorite is riding that momentum that they had in that late push to get into overtime. And then they use the overtime to like fully take over. Like, whoever was balling in the last couple minutes of the 4th quarter is usually the team that wins the overtime.
And then he really missed the second one badly. And yet JT had a shot to win the game at the end of the game because they got one last hurrah. He got a really good open look, which surprised me, and he missed it. And he didn't do much in the 4th quarter. And I can't wrap my arm around Boston because they've lost 3 times to Orlando. Then they lose at home to the Knicks.
Right. Well, you will.
We got the Lakers coming up.
You will.
I think the Lakers should win this game. Well, seriously.
There you go.
No, we got 98, old number 98.
There you go. See, I do.
Seriously. We got 98, and we got AD back.
Jason Tatum is 95.
Okay.
They're talking about these 2K rankings, ratings. 2K is crazy, man. 2K is crazy, man. Like, they're all over the place. I don't think 2K knows basketball. I don't think they really watch the games for real. Their ratings. I saw a list on Twitter of who they have as the best players, the highest overalls. To have LeBron James as a 98 is still the best player in the NBA. Like that's just fucking ridiculous. Like that's not even like, bro, that's not even real. That's not even real life. Like you have to be trolling. You have to be trolling. LeBron James is not a 98. He is not the best player in the NBA. Like that's just ultimate fool's gold. That's ultimate propaganda. I don't even play 2K anymore. I used to play 2K a lot growing up. I'll get on Madden every once in a blue moon, but I don't play no 2K, man. 2K is buns. They don't know what they're talking about. But to Skip's point about the Lakers, I think that if Anthony Davis is able to play enough minutes, tomorrow's game, Saturday, in Boston, of course, the biggest rivalry in basketball, you got Boston versus the Lakers. I think that the Lakers can compete in that game if Anthony Davis plays enough minutes. I think the Lakers supporting cast is starting to find their identity. They're very scrappy. They hustle for rebounds. They play some defense. They get the ball to LeBron and they get out of the way. I think they've kind of found their identity in how to play with LeBron because LeBron's not always the easiest player to play with. And if you bring AD into that mix, as talented as he is, and I don't really think that Boston has anybody that can guard him. Of course, Rob Williams. But I think if you put two bigs out there, if you're the Lakers, or if you're able to get AD out in space a little bit, I think AD could have a good night, or just, as a decoy, even if he's still a little banged up. I think AD could be real serviceable in that game. And I could just see LeBron, like the game in LA was very close between these two teams. I could see LeBron kind of bullying Tatum and Brown and kind of just owning the game, just like being ball dominant and just like controlling the pace. That's one thing that LeBron still does pretty much better than anybody in the league. He just controls pace. Like LeBron would just hold that ball and he'll set the table and just make sure, like, if I'm going to go down, it has to be going down my way or the highway. And the Lakers haven't been all that this season, but they do have some sneaky wins, some sneaky, like beating Memphis at home was very impressive for this Lakers team. And last point before I let the video play, of course, they were talking about the Celtics-Knicks game. I said we cashed with the Knicks, but I think the Knicks have been a sneaky good team, and Randall is an all-star this year. He's not my favorite player. He's always going to shoot 44, 46%. He's always going to take difficult shots. He's going to take a ton of three-pointers and only hit 1 out of 3 of them. From the free throw line, he's not as good as you would want him to be for as physical of a player that he is. But at 6'8", lefty, he's a real streak shooter, and when he gets going, he can just let it fly. He hit a ton of threes yesterday against Boston. I want to say he had like 5 or 6 threes, cashing it in people's faces. He plays with a lot of confidence. And Randall's a dog. He's a junkyard dog. He's a very physical player. He has a little bit of Zion to his game with that body type coming after you. And I think that the Knicks need somebody in the All-Star game, and I would give the nod to Randall. I think Brunson's had a hell of a year, but I can't quite get there with Brunson as an All-Star. Brunson, for me, is kind of like when I think of one of my favorite players all time, Baron Davis, or when I think of Mike Conley during his time in Memphis, or even Tony Parker some years. Like, there were always guards who were like super raw, who when they came to play against your team, you were like, whoa, he's a beast. But he wasn't necessarily an all-star, or the guard position is just so stacked because there's so much freedom of movement and because the guards just control so much of the game that a guy like Jalen Brunson, he just has tough luck because there's just a lot of guys balling out at his position. I'm just going to go with my East reserves real quick. Of course, 6th man, I got Embiid. You could have argued Embiid as a starter. 7, I went Jaylen Brown. Most wins in the NBA right now. Second best player on the best team. Pascal Siakam literally carrying the Toronto Raptors on his back right now. Toronto, they've been struggling. They're the weirdest team in the NBA, but Pascal Siakam has been balling. I got to get him in there. 9, I'd go Halliburton. He's almost like the modern-day Steve Nash. Assist to turnover ratio, I don't even have to look at the numbers to tell you that he's the best in the NBA. About 10 to 11 assists per game while only having like 2 turnovers a night. I mean, it's just remarkable stuff. A really good shooter, very efficient guy, 90% from the line, 40 from three, 50 from the field kind of guy. That's who Halliburton is. But he's not looking for his shot. He'll get you 20 points, maybe score a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but he's looking to get other guys involved, and he's just made the Indiana Pacers offense very efficient. Like when he's in there, that's a really good offensive team. They still have to figure out the defensive end, and they're still learning. Rick Carlisle has a lot to teach those guys, and he's doing a good job over there. But offensively, I mean, that team can play with anybody, and it's because of the way that Halliburton dictates the game. 10, like I said earlier, I'd go Julius Randle. 11, I'd go Bam Adebayo. I saw a lot of people put Bam and Jimmy Butler in. The Miami Heat, they're just not winning enough games for me to have two guys in. Bam Adebayo, I believe he hasn't made an All-Star team yet. I don't think Bam has made an All-Star team yet. Maybe one. Maybe Bam has made one All-Star team. But I'd get Bam in there. Bam's having a great season. Bam impacts the game on both ends. He's a 2010 guy. Yeah, I'd get Bam in there. And the last guy for the All-Star reserves for me out east would be Darius Garland. Honorable mention, James Harden and Trae Young, but Darius Garland gives me more from three-point range than both of them. He's very crafty at the rim. He probably doesn't. He's not going to get to the rim and draw fouls and finish as much as Trae Young, but Darius Garland will get there a lot more than James Harden will, and he's going to shoot the three better than both of them, and he's playing on a winning team right now. So overall, I'd give the edge to Garland, slight edge. If you said James Harden is your 12th guy in, I wouldn't be mad at that. For the West reserves, SGA, because I had him as a starter and because I had Ja as a starter, SGA 6, Ja 7, Sabonis 8, basically guys who I had as starters. Booker 9, Booker was having a hell of a year before he went out. Lauri Markkanen 10, got to put him in there. Damian Lillard 11, got to find a way to put him in there. 12 would be Anthony Davis with an honorable mention of Paul George. If you wanted to flip that because Anthony Davis didn't play enough games, I understand. But, De'Aaron Fox, Anthony Edwards, I can't get quite there with either of those guys yet.
So, but again, if they lost twice to Orlando at home and again to the Knicks last night, why wouldn't you go in there and beat them?
I mean, that's the goal, Skip.
You got Anthony Davis back.
We got to get AD's on the minute restriction. He ain't about to jump. He ain't not going to jump from 25 to 35 minutes after 2 games.
He scored 21 and 26 minutes.
Yeah.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked just like AD to me.
But they got bigger bodies. Al Horford, Robert Williams, they got bigger bodies than what San Antonio can throw at it. But we'll be just fine. Skip, look, I just think the thing is for me, I mean, Zion, I think Zion is unbelievable. And you're right, this is about the fans. Because Skip, you remember one year they voted Magic, and Magic wasn't even playing in NBA. And they put Magic in there in Orlando, and he won Finals MVP.
Okay. So I just kind of give it up. I can't really... I can't really put this under the microscope because in the end, there's no microscope.
Because there's a reason why the fans count 50%. Because they want their votes to weigh more than the media and the players. Because it's about them.
Okay.
This is who they want to see in the All-Star game.
All
and we've seen this before. It's not like this, like, man, he should. Nah, that's not what the fans want. The fans get what they want.
Okay. Good for them.
And you see old GOAT again. Cap. Vote getter.
Yep.
19 straight appearances starting. Not 19 straight. Now, he just tied Kareem. Go past Kareem point. Kareem played in 19. This man has started 19.
Given no defense in this game, I could see LeBron going 1 for 10 from 3.
There you go.
1 for 10.
Skip this too early.
Man, they find a way to get into their little LeBron debate every single show.
It's too early. We're 3 weeks away from the All-Star game. It's too early for that.
Well, we're talking about it now.
No, we talk about who you
He'll do it for the fans. He'll make 1 for the fans.
We made it.
Yeah, Skip, man.
Miss 9.
See, since you said something nasty, I was going to talk to him about entering the dunk contest. But since you were nasty about it, we ain't doing it.
Wait, what is he?
LeBron James will never enter the dunk contest. LeBron James isn't going to do anything that's not going to make him look like super amazing. And at this point in his career, he's not going to be able to get some of the dunks off that he could have got off earlier in his career. And there's some young bulls, like there's some no-name guys who are just super explosive who could beat LeBron in the dunk contest, and then he would just look foolish. It wouldn't make sense for LeBron to be in the dunk contest.
He dunk? What's his dunk rate?
95.
95 will do the dunk contest.
Yeah, LeBron ain't no 95 rating in dunking, bro. Like, 2K is just ridiculous. LeBron earlier in his career could have saved the dunk contest if he went in there. There were a lot of opportunities where the dunk contest wasn't all that, and he had the chance to join and really make it just the headline of All Star Weekend. But All Star Weekend is pretty much just bunk now. Like, if people go to All Star Weekend for the turning up and for the whole scene or whatever, but as far as actual like events and stuff like that, things to watch on TV, like the celebrity game, the dunk contest, all that stuff is just the skills challenge. All that stuff is weak. Like, it's all weak. I remember the skills challenge used to have like Chris Paul and Darren Williams and stuff. Now the skills challenge, I mean, like the skills challenge, all that stuff that is super bunk. Like, it's horrible. It's horrible, really. Even the dunk contest usually is horrible. Like, and we've kind of seen every dunk that you can kind of think of already. Um, the best thing sometimes is the 3-point shootout. Like when you have guys like Steph and Clay in the 3-point shootout, then it gets like exciting because it's like, whoa, who's gonna hit more and stuff. The 3-point shootout can kind of get exciting sometimes. And the All Star game in the fourth quarter when they start playing a little competitive and they're trying to win or whatever, the All Star game can kind of be cool. And in the very beginning of the All Star game, like the first couple possessions, you want to see who come out there and is like taking over. That gets cool, but overall, it's pretty boring.
Win it going away.
Only Ja got a high rate.
Every judge would give him a 10. He could shoot a layup and he'd get 10s across.
Only Ja had the higher rating of players ranked in the top 10.
Okay. Whatever. Do the dunk.
No. You're talking reckless to us.
You're
Why
on
would I
my
do that
bad
if you
side
did that?
now this morning. Zion will be reevaluated in 2 weeks on that hammy, guys. He just had.
She's a Pelicans fan. But, once again, I'm not mad at the starters on either side. The reserves are going to be interesting. I want to see how that pans out. I may have some issues with that. Just looking last night, I saw TNT's list. I didn't like who Kenny had as the reserves. Shaq, Kenny, Barkley, the new guy that they have filling in for Ernie for the time being or whatever. Those guys, I wasn't too crazy about their reserves list. I'll be interested to see who ends up being a reserve for both conferences. But as far as the starters, I'm not too mad at it. Like, once again, the West, I had SGA and Ja in, but I'm not going to be mad about Luka and Steph being in there. And in the East, I would have leaned Jaylen Brown over Kyrie Irving, but no big deal. They did a good job with the starters overall. It kind of panned out the way that everyone expected it to. So I'll be on the lookout to see how the reserves go. I'll be dropping more videos soon, guys. I'm going to start pushing out more content. Thanks for watching, as always. Until next time, peace.